I have been on the road being an RVer, full-time traveling for over 12 years. So I have seen a lot of different styles of roofs, all kinds of roofs, and I know what things they can go through and what goes through the roof. Thank you. Thank you. A little bit more background. So I've been on the road for 12 years, 10 years of those, actually 11 now. I've been working very diligently in the focused area of RV roofs. So I'm a wealth of information. If I skip something, please call me. If you have questions, you have my number. You can text me. You can send me pictures. I can coach you through it or help you decide what direction to go. And that's more or less my gift from me to you. And hopefully we can cover everything. I'm going to try to make this as entertaining as possible. I'm a very dry person. There's a story behind that. My goal in life was to be a pastor. I got to do a couple sermons, and then the head pastor was like, "Frank, I love you. It's not daycare. We don't want them to sleep. You have to make them. You got to be energetic." So I will do my best for the next little while to make sure that I'm energetic and that you don't fall asleep and that I don't fall asleep. At the same time, so I will go on from here. So this is RV roofs care and maintenance. That's me in my out in the wild pictures. So this throughout history, people like to RV. Even back in the pioneer days. They didn't call it that, they called it, pilgriming and everything else, but that's an RV. It's just different horsepower or ox power.
And this is the point of the show where we actually like to talk about what kind of roof you have. And so if you have let's start with the people that do own an RV. How many of you guys own an RV already? Anybody here that does not own an RV?
Right there.
You don't get told.
I thought this was a stick-up.
I'm his entertainment. Anyway, how many of you own a Class A? Anybody with a Class A? Anybody that knows what kind of roof they have on their Class A? Okay, okay. So we'll help you figure that out by the end of the seminar, hopefully. Anybody in a fifth wheel? Well, there's a handful of you. Travel trailers. And I'm guessing the rest of you Class B, C, or something else? Anybody in a bolus? No.
Somebody knows what that is.
I know. But what about an Airstream? Are there any Airstreamers in here? Because I feel like they're not just a travel trailer, they're their own class. I mean, we don't talk about that. All right, so, the nice thing about learning about what you have is how many of you know what kind of roof you have? About an eighth of you. Okay.
How many in here have been on your roof?
Oh, about half.
Nice.
That's good.
How many in here are afraid of heights?
I'm afraid.
I am afraid of heights. I just wanted to let you know.
How many of you guys wash your roof twice a year? Okay, that's fair. That's fair. You just got it. That's fair. Okay. So so I'd like to ask you, can I ask you a question? I know we're going to jump in here. Ready?
Go ahead.
So how often do you think you should inspect your roof?
4 times.
Wow.
We have a smart one in here. 4 times a year. That is the right answer, everybody. So.
There is no right answer.
Well.
I'll go on against that one. Who in here keeps their RV in a time capsule? Nobody. That's the safest place to keep your RV when you're not using it, is a time capsule. Next closest thing is an inside storage. Anytime it's outside, I would check it at a minimum of 4 times a year.
Yeah.
That's when it's not being used.
Has anybody ridden in a covered wagon? There's a few places in the country where you can actually stay in one and enjoy it. Yeah?
Yeah, from Wyoming.
Yeah?
Yes. Nice. Good go. All right. So we like to show some pictures of some historic RVs out there. Don't walk that way. Sorry about that. These are some of the RVs that periodically, if you ever make your way to Elkhart, Indiana, there's a museum there. The one in the lower left corner is there. The one on the right was not. It was a very sad day for me. I wanted to cry. I missed it by a week.
But if you want to see a bolus, there is one here at the show. It's up toward the B building and it's pretty cool. It's a piece of American history.
Yes. All right, so going over just to make sure everybody understands what, I'm going to give you a quick synopsis of what each category and what they kind of look like in case there are people here that don't know. We're taking a step to make sure that goes. This is Class A. Class A's are mostly either gas or diesel pushers, depending on where the engine is. And they can have everything from fiberglass roof, metal roof, even down to a membrane, vinyl, TPO, EPDM, depending on what year it was made. Well, slow down. Class B, does anybody here have a Class B? Nobody, okay. In case you ever look at Class Bs have the automotive style roof, so they are painted. You still have to deal with the caulking, but make sure it's cleaned. Class Cs, anybody here have a Class C? Nobody, okay. Fifth wheels, okay.
Okay, so lots of fifth wheels.
And the travel trailer.
All right.
I just realized after giving this class for over 3.5 years, there is one RV I don't have on here.
Which one?
The truck camper.
Yeah.
Is there any truck camper owners in here? From the bottom of my heart, I apologize.
He will fix that for the next one, so that's good.
He's like, you took 4 years to figure it out. Okay, roofs of today and materials utilized to keep your RVs dry. One of the manufacturers that's out there is debuting a different style roof. I'm going to talk about that here in the presentation, just in case you happen to be one of those owners. This is the fun part of the class, aka presentation, where I'm going to be teaching you some things that you can bedazzle your friends with over a campfire. Whether you're getting roasted or you're roasting marshmallows, these fancy words will make you sound like a RV expert. So in the old days, EPDM is not quite used as often. It is the generic term everybody hears as a rubber roof. They still use that term today for all the other membranes that are out there, but this one here, the scientific name is the ethylene propylene diene monomer. Should we touch? You're good. You can answer it. Continuing on while he's on this call. So this is an acrylic coated membrane where they're going over actual rubber. And when I would tell people in my early years, as I learned more about this, as I would get up on roofs, the rubber membrane actually, depending on how old it is, because it comes from nature, it does decompose.
And this one is kind of that elephant in the room that nobody talks about, but this one actually Dicor had some failures up through 2017.
You don't name the pachyderms.
Oh, well, they had some failures, and they replaced those roofs for a long time. And you can still find them in the wild. So if you have a sticky roof or a roof that looks like crackle paint, that is a possibility that your EPDM roof is failing or has failed. And so those are some things that you want to keep an eye on in terms of like just knowing what to look for. We do have a sample of what a failed EPDM looks like in the booth at B125. Do you have one at yours?
No, I don't.
So you have to come see me for that one.
Go to her. They're sticky messy. I don't let people touch them. All right, the thing about an EPDM roof, so EPDM roofs were still popular between the years of, up to the years of 2017. So some 2018 models might have that membrane on there. What she was mentioning earlier about the number of failures, those were ranging anywhere from the years of 2014 to 2018. So if you have a roof that is in that range, keep a close eye on it. And maintaining this type of roof, if you don't maintain it and put the coatings on it, it will do a slow early death.
And they did their best to, alleviate some of that. They would send you a whole new EPDM roll, and you had to find now a mobile tech that would put it on and knew how to do that in the field. And so, then they started using us to help with some of those installs, and we don't do that, and so that saved them some money there, but the customer then got a discount.
Okay, on to the next one. TPO, this is one of the most popular, many different brands use TPO. The scientific name is thermoplastic polyfin. TPO is a strong membrane. One of the things I will tell you if you ever read into your literature, TPO roofs can last about 20 years. That's just the membrane portion if it's maintained and cleaned. TPO roofs do not require any protective coatings. So if you do decide to use a protective coating, do some further research. Just clean your roof, make sure it's shiny and clean, and maintain and protect your sealants that are around it. This one can be identified by it's solid white all the way through, and then it's stronger than EPDM, but still does need attention. The one thing I will tell you about TPO compared to EPDM is that EPDM has memory, where if you run into a tree and you snag it, it will go back to shape. TPO, if you snag that and pull on it, it does not go back to shape. Next one, vinyl. So depending on vinyl, yes, sir.
Is the TPO glued to the top of the trailer?
All membrane roofs are glued down. Even the fiberglass is glued.
And that's a really good question, actually. So the question was, are membrane roofs glued? And the answer is yes. They're all glued down if they're membrane roofed. But the thing about the glue is it's changed over the years. So, you know, they've come up with new regulations, so the glue has definitely become less strong over the years, which is why we have more ballooning roofs out on the road today. Yes?
We have a TPO roof, and we haven't had any leaks in the RV or any leaks that we know of, but we've been told we have soft spots.
Okay, so they have a TPO roof. Let me make sure I get this right, because they're recording, so I want to make sure I answer.
Repeat.
So you've been told you have soft spots on that roof, but you don't have any compromised areas. I would tell you probably do. Because you don't get soft spots unless you have a leak somewhere. And it could be a pinhole, and those pinholes can, you know, so we should talk afterwards. We'll be happy to have that conversation.
We can dive deeper into understanding why they think there's a soft spot. We can talk one-on-one.
Yeah. All right, so vinyl
Yes.
What creates soft spots?
leaks.
Water.
Yeah, what creates soft spots? Leaks create soft spots. Empty areas where there's gaps in the ceiling create soft spots. Old caulking creates soft spots. All sorts of things can create soft spots.
The decking itself, depending on if you have a light trailer or light roof, those are going to be more flexible, more soft than a more rigid roof that might have 3/8 or even up to 1/2 inch plywood on the top. Some of the RVs that are built, you can actually park a truck on them. Others, I wouldn't park a pencil.
And if
So-
you're sitting here and you're a Tiffin owner and you have the thickest roof on the market.
Going back to TPO, TPO does expand and contract a lot, so you will see wrinkles in that as well. Looking at this one here, this one is a
Bad thing to have wrinkles?
Oh, yeah. Maybe.
yes and no. It is gonna, because of the expansion contraction of the weather, it's supposed to. But unfortunately, when they put it down, depending on what the temperature is when they put it on there, it might have been stretched or not stretched enough, and then you'll get excessive wrinkling in the membrane itself.
And the problem with wrinkles is it's always a bigger potential to snag a pinhole.
I'll cover more on that when we get to the
Yeah, we'll
inspection
get
portion.
to the roof inspections.
So vinyl, one of the ways you can tell that, it's got a fabric back on the bottom, they call it like mouse fur. And then one of the ways you can tell, it's also got texture. So TPO can be textured or it can be smooth. Vinyl is always textured. And then it does say it's one of the most least and very inexpensive roofs that industry does use, but there are some of the high name brands that do use this on some of their older coaches, but it's a lot thicker than the TPO is. Next, PVC. This is one that came on the scene in the late to mid-teens as to go against what EPDM was doing. PVC is a polyvinyl chloride. This was the strongest membrane until just recently. It does have weaknesses. The weakness is basically that you have to be very specific on what sealants you use. And there's only a couple brands that actually use this one here.
That's actually the article I started writing last night about sealants because of the last seminar the other day. And so we're going to have an article coming out on our Roofing Solutions blog about what sealants to use with what type of roof you have coming out probably in the next week or so.
The latest and greatest that just hit the market this year, the PET. I would try to say that, but I've listened to Google and Google Translate. I can't do it. So there's a scientific name for you. This is, I would say, is most of the pictures on this presentation are from pictures that I took. I did borrow this from the actual manufacturer, and their name is on the screen. That being said, so this is the strongest one. What they're trying to do is combat the strength of multiple sheets into one solid membrane sheet or one solid sheet. Excuse me. I have nothing bad to say. The concept is good. I haven't seen anything as of yet because it's still too new on the industry. But the one thing I will say, in my experience, I do not like to see solid roofs in this manner because it needs to flex somewhere. So if the substrate is solid, the trusses are going to take all the flex, and that happens from when you hit potholes. And hitting a pothole can break your roof, in case you didn't know. Fiberglass roofs. And then who has fiberglass roofs in here? Quite a few of you? Okay. So I'm sure when you talk to your salesman, he's like, you have a fiberglass roof, you have nothing to ever worry about. You almost have more maintenance on your roof than anybody else does. Because if you're not taking care of your roof and putting your 3M coatings on there to seal that gel coat and everything else, eventually you'll start getting little white streaks. Once you have the white streaks coming down the sides, that's actually the particles from the fiberglass. Once that gel coat and the fiberglass starts to break, we'll go through things like fissure cracking, which are microscopic fractures in the fiberglass itself. You can't see with the naked eye, but once you can start to see the spider cracks, the damage is done and something needs to be done to correct it. Lo and behold, the last one is an aluminum or metal roof. Yes, sir. Okay.
Yes, that.
Gotcha. All right, aluminum or metal roofs. So some people who are have their Class A and have their auto haulers or some of the work and play RVs that are out there, they're made with a metal roof. Some of the ice boxes, which are like Minnesota, Wisconsin, basically southern Canada states. Those guys that go and put their RV on an ice box or on the ice to go fishing will have this style because they want the roof to be warm. Continuing on, this is when I was doing research and I continue to look. So if you find something that says something different, please let me know. But this quote here is more about EPDM roofs than anybody else because EPDM roofs had a lifespan of about 10 years. Do you want to read it?
I can read it. So first off, let me answer the popular question, how often do I need to reseal my RV roof? This is great, ready? It's case by case, roof by roof, of course, but the recommendation is to reseal your roof each and every year. Every 10 years, it's recommended to replace the entire roof. Failure to do so will cause things. We didn't write this. We're not telling you this because we wrote this. We're telling you this because this is all over the internet, but it's not the most popular statement, so that's not the one you're going to find. And so one of the things that I do specifically is work with insurance companies. And I work with those insurance companies on a regular basis for my clients that have had an incident. You know, you can't just have your roof replaced for free because, you know, it started leaking because you didn't reseal it every year. They want you to reseal your roof every 12 to 18 months, and they want you to have the records to do so. Does anyone reseal their roof every 12 to 18 months? Okay. So if you don't do that, and they ask you, when was the last time you removed or replaced your caulking? Wait, what? I have to remove the old stuff? I can't just go over it? We jokingly in our household call that layer cake caulking. And the reason you don't layer cake caulk is because between each layer there's a dirt layer. And between each dirt layer there could be a crack. And between each crack is a place where the water can get in. And so those items become a problem, not immediately.
Yes.
And the problem when you have a layer cake caulk is you don't know where it's coming in. Because you don't know which layer is leaking. And so that becomes a real issue long term. So recommended, if you have an RV tech or you're a DIYer and you want to do all your own work and you want to remove and replace all the caulk every single year or 18 months, you're going to pay a price. And that price is going to vary state by state, experience by experience, technician by technician. And it might be a guy that specializes in plumbing. So, you know, it just keeps it interesting. So, you know, I mean, if you need black tank help, that's the guy you want. But if you want roof help, you need somebody that specializes in that.
Absolutely.
So our team of technicians is all across the country for that. So.
Yes, sir.
If the original caulking was bonded properly, when you're removing it, does it pull on the membrane and damage the membrane? Ask that on the mic just so they can record.
I can repeat it.
Okay, so the question was, if your caulking was secured, you know, removing it, does that damage the membrane?
So it doesn't matter what type of sealants that are used. When you're going down into that microscopic level, you're going to cause some form of damage between the two. That's why you want to look at something that's not going to adhere. You want something that's going to rebond everything back down. So if that makes sense. So if you're a DIYer, making sure that I always recommend, because if I do your inspection, I will say I don't like multiple layers, and I will hit you on it, saying it's not a concern but a threat, because it's just putting Band-Aid over cancer. It's going to get worse underneath until it gets addressed. But addressing those areas is basically removing the caulking, whether with heat guns or with scraping tools that aren't going to mar the membrane underneath. If you end up marring the membrane, just make sure you go past that area with the next layer of caulking.
And I mean, that leads to another question that's not on your slides, because I know it's not there unless you put it in recently.
Yeah.
The question is, we've seen it all. And so we've seen a whole room covered in a turnabout tape. Does anyone here use a turnabout on all those seams? Good, it's a smart crowd today. Because I mean, like a lot of people do, they say turnabout lasts forever. It really doesn't. It's really just a Band-Aid. And so a turnabout can lift at the edges. And so a turnabout is a good, fast fix.
Yes.
In the event that you hit a tree and you're waiting for your insurance company, take pictures of the hole first. But make sure that you have something to secure it, because you don't want to cause additional damage by leaving it open to the elements either.
Correct.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is that Durabond you're talking about, the same as flex seal tape?
Yes.
Well,
This is different
it's
fancy
different
names.
branding. I actually can't recommend the one you just said out loud at all, because it tends to flake. The tape.
No, the tape, they have different byproducts. What I would say when it comes to tapes of that variant, it is good to have tapes like that on hand for emergency reasons. So if you snag a tree or something comes across in a storm.
We actually have a blog on that for RV Roofing Solutions on your emergency repair kit. So that's on the blog at RV Roofing Solutions.
Next slide. So talking more about the caulking, since going into more detail, it is important that you identify what your membrane is so that you can get what is recommended by the manufacturer, so that you stay with something that's compatible, as well as what the differences between the caulkings are. So one of the things that you want to double check when you're reading your labels and you're picking it up is you want to make sure that if you're up on the field area, so the flat areas of your roof, you're looking for a lap sealant that's going to be self-leveling. If you're working on anything on the radiuses or on the sides, you want a non-sag. The biggest difference is the lap sealant will flow and go towards south or towards earth, where the non-sag is actually going to stay in place where you put it. So it's not going to flatten out. So if you leave a big glob, that glob is staying the way you put it. One of the things I'll tell you, this is unless it's an absolute emergency, do not mix your caulkings. Silicone does not like to stick to dicor, and dicor does not like to stick to silicone. Going on to more of when you're actually looking at your membranes. As I told you earlier, so these are all pictures that I took on roofs. The client was not aware that a screw popped through. And that actually a screw popped through, and then they put it back down because the board was loose. Rather than cover the hole with dicor, they just left it. It doesn't make sense, but that's what happened. That being said, so not all sealants are compatible with all roofs. Does anybody know if they have an alpha roof? Okay. So make sure that when you get sealants, you can use dicor as a last resort, but I would recommend using the alpha sealant. That being said, and this has nothing to do with Lippert or Alpha Seal, keep them, after you're done doing your caulking, give your caulking a good couple days to cure, and then double check all the areas you had just repaired. There's a reason why you want to do that, is because depending how long that product has been sitting on the shelf, the product might have become settled and not sealed properly. So you want to get that corrected or adjusted or addressed before it actually fully seals or it doesn't seal in that case.
And I mean, that was a picture of a failed EPDM too, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
What it would look like if you have a failed EPDM.
wanted to go over what the truss structure is for most of your RVs that are out there. So wood trusses, if you have a fifth wheel, not all fifth wheels are going to have wood trusses. More for like destination trailers, things like that, that are on the heavier end. The best portion about wood trusses is that they have memory. What does that mean? It can handle heavy loads of snow or stuff and things like that. If you look at some of the older brochures, they would advertise that they would put so many cinder blocks on your roof. I don't know why anybody would want to put cinder blocks on your roof, but that's how they advertised it.
It's how they show you how they can handle the snow load.
Then show snow. But apparently if you go somewhere where there's construction, you can just put cinder blocks on your roof. Best for load bearing. What memory basically means is as it sags down, if you take the weight off, it springs back into shape. Aluminum trusses. This is very popular amongst Class A's, Class C's, well, not Class B's because that's a van structure. Light trailers, light fifth wheels, and things of that nature. This allows you to have the pretty looking roof, the pretty looking ceiling, and allows you to have cargo capacity. Not good for heavy loads, and it lacks memory. This is one of the types of roofs that actually can be damaged from hitting potholes. Wanted to kind of go into this in a little bit more detail. This is a side cap of a Class A. A lot of fifth wheels are built this way. This is a specific brand. Does anybody in here have a Winnebago or an Itasca Class A? Okay, I don't have to go into further detail, but I can kind of go about this in detail. So there are a lot of RVs that are built light-wise that have the vacuum sealed, and this is what a side picture looks like. So it does have a wood deck underneath. This is a very thin fiberglass layer. It's a file-on roof in this picture, but they will put this in roofs that have TPO, EPDM, vinyl, everything, basically everything that's out there. The structure actually and the strength actually doesn't come from the trusses, it comes from the styrofoam. The styrofoam and that Luan, which is about 1/8 of an inch thick, is vacuum sealed together. That's where the strength comes. They like to use it because it has rigidity and flexibility all at the same time.
Is this a good time for me to ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay, so how many of you have ever done a factory tour at an RV manufacturing plant? Anybody? Couple of you? Okay. So Frank took me, we're in Goshen every summer, we do rallies, we do
Nope.
roof inspections.
No brand names.
I'm not.
Okay.
And it's a good brand.
It is. It's an amazing brand.
But it's a busy brand. But so we went in and we do the factory tour and everything looks amazing. And of course we're getting to the roof part and the roof part, he almost stepped on my foot when I said what I said. But so I asked, how long does it take you to put on a roof? And then the guy looks at me and he goes, 22 minutes. And I didn't have a poker face.
That's when I stepped on her foot. Because she's like, I was like, wrong person to argue with. Don't argue with them.
So understand that we have a joke that, you know, if it was built on a Monday or if it was built on a Friday or if it was built in 2020 during COVID and the rigs were flying out the door, they have time crunch in the factory to get
Yes.
those off the line. There are a few brands that I will not name that custom built them that don't have those same time crunches and do take some extra time, but they're exponentially more money in real life. And so there's some things that you have to ask, not your sales rep, but call the brand and ask the questions if you're shopping. If you're here shopping at the show, make sure you ask all the questions because you want to know that your roof is going to be in good shape as it comes off the line. We actually had a customer a couple years back that we were at a rally doing a roof inspection, and she's like, well, I don't want you to inspect this one, I've got one coming. And I said, well, we can write you an estimate, we can just change the length and you can get the discount on the whole thing. And so we ended up putting it on a brand new roof. 6 to 10 brand new roofs every year actually come to us before they have to take it off the lot and have us put the roof on.
Yep. Okay, this is what everybody came for. Roof inspections and how to do one.
And they have that paper. They have actually a take-home assignment.
Sweet.
I'm a road schooling mom, I'm sorry, we got the brunt of that.
At least there wasn't a build-your-own kit on the side. No. Okay, so roof inspections. So for those of you who have done one, I have modified this. I can't use my side joke about air horns anymore because they're not.
Took it off?
I took it off.
Does anybody here have air horns on their rig? it's okay, you know, we would.
Class A?
Anyway.
Okay. Toter home.
Yeah, oh, okay, nice. You missed that one too.
Yeah. All right. This is a basic list of what things you will find on your RV. As far as ladders, termination bars, vents, refrigerator vents. Not all RVs have refrigerator vents on the roof. Some of them have on the sidewall. But this is something that you do want to check as far as possible leak areas that can cause damage. Your plumbing caps. I didn't put the other ones on here, depending on where you're at, part of the country. What the other term is, it's basically an attic vent. Some people will call them mushroom caps. That being said, does anybody know if they have attic vents or mushroom caps on their RV? Do you know what they are? Okay, so I do inspections at a lot of large rallies around the country. And one of the things I always have to do every time I check the mushroom caps, to make sure that they put them on the right direction. Because there's an open gap on there and it's very low profile. If you're driving and it's put on backwards, it's going to take all that rain, go right underneath and up into the roof because it's just a small umbrella. Skylights. Does everybody here have skylight on your RV? There's probably only one or two that shouldn't shake your head, but you have vents. Air conditioners. Does everybody have air conditioners on your RV? There are RVs that are out there that don't have them. They're in the basement. Unbelievable, it's true. And then TV antennas. Who has a bat wing? Do you know what a bat wing is? I'll show you a picture of one. Okay. And then satellite dishes. Who here still uses a satellite?
I don't know whether to take it off or just leave it.
We'll get there.
I'll get
We'll cover
there.
that.
And then solar panels. Who here has solar panels? Does anybody have stick panels to the roof? Okay. All right, we'll go, I'm sorry, I skipped a couple. And then radius. This radius is the new one. And I'll kind of go over that in just a second. All right, ladders. Really quickly. There was a manufacturer in one of the, Indiana, that the safety guy pulled me aside and he goes, after giving me some training, I had to wear this harness in the whole 9 yards. He's like, we're going to give you this 30-foot harness. You're going to be on a 12-foot roof. Don't fall. Thank you, OSHA. That being said, he goes, how often when you're doing roof inspections do you use the RV's roof that you're on? I'm like, never. He goes, thank goodness. I'm like, why is that? He's like, to put it in layman's terms, it's like putting a spoiler in an Escort. So it's just there for looks. Now, would I use an RV ladder in an emergency situation or to maybe put my honey wagon on there? Of course, absolutely. But understand how they're built. They're made out of a very thin aluminum tubular metal, and then each rung where you put all your body weight on those, it's held by plastic and very thin screws. So where's the strength?
And the screws at the top, there's like 3 of them on each side of the ladder, and they're about that deep because your roof isn't that thick. And so they're just not that deep.
So there's your class on ladders. Be safe with it. Keep an eye on it. Would I remove it from being on the RV? No. But would I use it? Probably not.
Only in an emergency.
Yes. Okay, who here has heard of the ballooning from negative air pressure for travel trailers, fifth wheels, and some Class A's?
Otherwise known as the unicorn going down the road that looks like this.
It's more like a Cebu.
Okay. We should talk.
All right, so this one here is one of the ones you can see this nice big wrinkle here, and the actual membrane pulled loose from the front termination bar. The reason this happens is from negative air pressure. Basically, anywhere somewhere out here, there's a pinhole air leak. As they're going down the road in highway speeds, that negative air pressure will inflate that entire membrane into a balloon. Ways to check for that, because you can't really see it, because as soon as you stop, it will deflate. What you're going to do is looking for anywhere along this area here. If your caulking is still good, you're looking for long, thin, wrinkled lines where it's like stretching out.
Well, and I think back to 2021. So the Harvest Toast coach, I can say this because it's in all my marketing.
Yes,
The
we did
Harvest
that
Toast
one.
coach, Joe Holland, actually calls me. And he says, hey, I got this problem. This happened on the road. The roof ballooned. And when we get there, he took duct tape.
It was a turnabout.
15 feet of the roof.
It was a turnabout.
It was a turnabout. to the first 16 feet of the roof and tape. He probably used 16 rolls of tape. I mean, it was incredible.
It would have been cheaper to buy a new membrane for how much tape he
Right.
used.
But so, I mean, like, the Harvest Host coach does have a roofing system on it, and so it's one of those things that, you know, once that happens, you can't just move it back down. You know, you can't, and there's no way to do it effectively. So there's an expensive cost that can be associated with that. Catching it earlier than later can be a partial cost that's bad versus a full cost that's bad.
Yep. Carrying on. Now going to the rear termination bar. Not all of these are built the same. Some RVs are going to have a corner piece that goes to the back wall. Some are actually going to have a termination bar like the other one had, depending on how your back cap or back wall is built.
I just realized that none of the feet on that one are sealed.
It's because there's not even any caulking there. Look, all the caulking from this area has been cleaned. Now, just so you all know, this is a picture from the original creator of Learn to RV. That was his roof.
RV roofing solutions.
Learn to
that was Doug's roof.
Learn to RV.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was Doug's roof.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm catching up.
So this is one of my favorite pictures that I've taken.
When I
Client.
say we see it all, we 100% see it all. He shows me this picture without any context. He sends me a picture of this picture. And I said, are you working with a periscope? Because they have made this vent. That is their vent.
This is a plumbing cap.
Yeah, but they had finagled it, and it was creative.
It worked. It did what it was supposed to do. It breathed for the tank and didn't let water in.
But the rest of the roof had how many holes in it?
So the client had a fifth wheel, and he had a tin roof. He bought it with a tin roof on it. Who here has worked with tin roofing? Anybody? So tin roofing, there's two different styles of screws or bolts you put on there. Some have the gasket, some don't. This had about 1,800 screws in it without any of the gaskets. And he asked me, he said, well, how many spots were leaking? All of them. All of them.
That was a full redecking.
So for those of you who have refrigerator vents, this is an older Class A. Periodically, you want to check this if you can't see underneath it. It's not something I would check all the time. The reason you want to make sure is you want this little mesh screening here. This keeps the insects out, mud daubers, things of that nature. Because if you have a refrigerator vent, that most likely means that you have a propane refrigerator. If you have a propane refrigerator, make sure that you're checking for proper ventilation and that the bugs aren't getting in there. Plumbing caps. This is one of the fancy ones that's out there. This is the centrifugal one. You want to make sure that everything around here is sealed around the base and around the tube itself. If you decide to upgrade to one of this style, make sure you remove the whole entire plumbing cap of the other one to make sure that you can seal it properly. Skylights.
Plastic wears out.
Skylights, the way that I like to test them is you want to make sure that the plastic is still pliable or whatever the clear membrane is. So you find a general area and just kind of push on it. You're looking for any cracking, spider cracks, things like that nature. Know that sometimes when they're installed at the factory that they're going to use some young installer that has power tools and they have a torque setting of, oh my gosh, that's too high. And this is gentle plastic, so you want to have it just snug to where it's going to hold it in place, not to where it's going to push it through the ceiling into the floor. That being said, so you want to make sure you're checking for things, kind of like right here, kind of a bit of blow up right there of it. If you have to fill these voids or cracks in your until you get a replacement of a skylight, make sure that you're using something and checking it periodically because yes, it might quote unquote leak into the shower and it's a safe place to leak. It's got to go through all those layers of wood that are in the ceiling before it gets there. AC gaskets. This is my favorite subject I like to cover because I get to plug one of the other companies that's here at the show. So AC gaskets are not all the same.
Well, so several years ago, when we would do a roof, we gave customers an option. Use a regular AC gasket, which is put together with glue in all four corners, or upgrade to a steel rubber gasket. So steel rubber is a special company. We met them several years ago at a show, and and we partnered with them, so when we do a roof that needs an AC gasket replacement, we only use them. And so we took away last year the option to do the standard gasket, because glue just doesn't work long term. And so the steel rubber gasket is a one-piece gasket that's EPDM, which in this case is fine, and it's punched, and so there's no actual areas that those corners can leak. So it's one of the upgrades that you can do when you install our system, but it's something that, you know, is an important aspect of it, that it's, you know, a solid state gasket.
So the other thing, so not all gaskets are the same. The other thing I wanted to cover on this one is basically the difference in sizes. It's important to know what size gasket you need. There is one proprietary brand that wants you to use one specific size, and it happens to be mostly for just the Class A's when you're having, you have to have a plenum divider between the intake and output. The other thing I'll cover on this is basically this. If you have to replace the gasket and you're doing it by yourself, it is not common practice. I'll say that again. It's not common practice to have to put caulking between the gasket and the roof. Can you? Absolutely. But remember next time because it's a compression gasket, when you go to take that AC off, you now have to figure out some way to get underneath the AC to unglue all that sealant.
Yeah, because, I mean, and that's an important factor, is, you know, a gasket is a one-term item. So if your tech says, oh, I need to pull up your AC, and he puts it back down, and now all of a sudden your air conditioner is leaking, that's probably because he should have replaced the gasket. Yes?
How often should you replace the gasket?
Well, so that varies. So you want to look, do you want to take this, because you're up there more than I am?
I got you. So your question is, how often should you change your gaskets? I would say first, it really depends on how often you're inspecting them, how often you're taking the RV down the road, and those are the factors. When you're checking, you're doing your generic, not generic, when you're doing your basic inspection of your roof, you should go up to your air conditioners and kind of tug on them, make sure that they're not loose. That's the first thing. The next thing you want to do is take a step back. You want to make sure that the air conditioner itself is flat and level, that the front side is where the actual gasket sits. If you see any other foam pieces, those are actually like feet to help lift up the back end. There are manufacturers that are out there that they will have one air conditioner where the front is all sitting up nice and pretty, and the back one they don't put any feet on it, so that back base flange or base plate of the air conditioner is actually rubbing against the membrane and will put holes in it. So you want to verify if it's rubbing. You want to verify the actual height. So you want it to be between 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch of clearance, so you should be able to fit your fingers under the three sides you can reach pretty easy. If you can't, then it's sitting too low and needs to be replaced.
That being said, some manufacturers are putting them on, and we've been on plenty of roofs where they actually nicked the membrane while they were putting on the AC. Of course, the manufacturer won't say that that's what's happened, but you can see the marks on the two back corners on the membrane that maybe have caulk over it. So if you're looking back there, it's a great time to check that too.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. This is going on to the antennas. This is a batwing antenna. So I know that there's a lot of different styles that are out there. This is a traditional RV antenna. I worked in communications for many, many years. Radio waves don't care what type of antenna you have. It depends on what your receiver is to decode whether it's digital or analog signal. Just for that side note. So basically when you're dealing with your antennas, if you have a batwing or crank style antenna, make sure you're lubricating the gear so it can go up and down. And make sure when you're dropping your antenna that you check the area for the crank area, that it's actually lowering down in the appropriate slot so it sits on the roof where it's supposed to. Because there are supports up there underneath the membrane to support that. Any questions on antennas or anything we covered to this point? Yes.
Yeah, so I have it's one thing. Oh, so I have a cover that goes on the TV antenna, but I never put the cover on. Am I supposed to?
I'm not sure what type of antenna you have.
A picture would be helpful. Yeah, so, I mean, you don't have to,
You don't have to.
as long as it's down. You just want it flying. Where did you go?
Yep. Okay. Satellite dishes. If you don't use your satellite dish, depending on how the mounting feet are, take it off the roof. It's just extra weight and stuff to catch trees. If you do happen to use it, depending on what your satellite is, was manufactured, 2017 and older, those are all analog. So if you decide to get direct TV or dish network, you're going to probably have to upgrade to a different satellite.
And I think the most we've seen on someone's roof are like, what, 5 at one time, where you took like 4 of them off for them?
They collected them.
Yes.
Satellite, the coach was walking in, they removed it, and the electrical cover, better remove all the wiring and just put a solid patch on it.
So the question is it better to remove all the wiring and put a solid patch on it if you're removing that?
I like to take all the wiring completely off, depending on if it was to be rewired. Most of the newer satellite dishes that are out there, the RF cable that comes in is the same cable they'll have the controls to have it point. So it doesn't have a control cable. So I would completely cut the control cable off and remove it and not even tuck it back into the roof. But as far as the RF cable itself, or the coaxial cable, I would push as much back into the roof as possible and then metal plate over the top of it and then seal it.
Solar panels are another hot topic item. You know, we all like to have our power. And so one of the things that we see a lot of times in the field is they're mounted way too low. And so the problem is they get hot on the top. May not seem bad, but underneath them, sometimes it feels like you can cook an egg underneath them, slow roasted, of course. And so, you know, having the right height for the solar panel and having a rail system is a great idea. But it's more than that, it's a safety feature. So, you know, if your roof gets hot, it can cause a fire. And so, you know, having a product applied underneath it that has a UL rating on it that will keep your rig noticeably cooler is very important. There's ways to do that.
So talking with several of the solar panel people at the show, I'm back in the A building. I did talk with Future Solutions and Joyful Journey about the heights, because I like to test different companies to see what their thought process is. As I walked to Future Solutions, is like, hey, I got a question for you. Solar panels, how high should they be off the roof? And he goes, why do you ask? I said, well, first off, I'm a roofer. He goes, okay, so what do you want to know? I said, for efficiency of the solar panel itself, he goes, I recommend at least 4 to 5 inches clearance between the roof itself and the panel. I said, okay, I concur. I totally agree with you. And he's like, well, why do you agree with me? I said, no, because I already know that the temperatures that you can get under this panel on this roof here can be anywhere between 170 to 200 degrees. That's like cook a brisket type temperature. So when temperatures get that high, it's actually going to degrade and slowly bake your membrane so that it's not going to be working. And you wouldn't know if you had a leak or a crack underneath there from all that heat.
And I don't know which picture is in your booth, but I know in my booth.
I don't have that picture.
The picture in my booth is actually from a roof we did in Y, Arizona, that as we pulled off the panels on that particular coach, there's actual solar burns on the roof. So
Where?
we're at the B building,
Where in Arizona?
Y, Arizona.
Why was it in Arizona?
If you haven't been to Y, Arizona, this is a fun time to plug that. It's a great place to go.
And then talking about radiuses. Okay, so radiuses, everybody's got one if you have an RV, whether it's a straight corner edge or it's actually a curved. You want to make sure that you're checking your radius from the front of the coach all the way to the back and the back all the way to the front. This one here is a Class A. This is one of the favorite brands that we like to work with and we're benefit partners of. This is a 2022. This is from expansion, contraction, and flexing from going down the road. So this is painted radius with silicone over the top, and actually the silicone didn't hold, so it starts to pop. That's going to let water in. This is a different brand, but this is another Class A with a hard shell radius. Keep an eye on these areas here. Now, the reason I talk about this, and a lot of people are all about aesthetics because they like to have everything blend together. If you're not maintaining this area here, I don't care what color your paint is, this whole wall is going to rot. I'm being brutal, I'm sorry. Oh, I will back up. Okay, and then this is your membrane style. This is a travel trailer here. My little finger right there, it's my famous finger. This right here, you can see a little bit of a dark color right there. That's actually the caulking is being pulled away from the membrane. That's from expansion, contraction, and from going down the road. The reason why I want to check stuff like that is because once it starts to do that, that might still be sealed, but it's probably I would call that between a very big concern to a threat. Because if this is an area where you're getting a lot of water flow, and whether it be because of the drip rail or because of the way that the RV is tipped, where everything goes to the back and then off the sides.
We have about 5 minutes, so we can take a handful of them. I'm going to come to you with a mic and ask you to talk in the mic so that we can record properly.
I have many coaches, but I have a TPO roof on my door, Palazzo, 14. And the front corner, like you said, one of my other coaches, I took the whole front end off, put stainless steel screws, and I use a product called Sika.
Yep.
We use it in the construction business, like concrete stuff,
Mm-hmm.
flexible
Yep.
bonds. Is there a problem with that with TPO?
Not to the best. Okay, so your question is Sikaflex compatible with TPO membranes? Sikaflex is actually doesn't just make products for construction. They also make products for the marine grade level. So what I know that there are RV shops out there that will use it, and it is one of the more expensive sealants that are out there. But I have a couple of technicians that I work with directly that they swear by it. So would I use it on mine? If I was trying to maintain the cosmeticsness of and the original foundation of what was there, I would use that product.
But at the same time, if you have a sensitivity to smells, Sikaflex does tend to be a very strong odor, and it does off gas for quite a bit of time. So if that's a concern for somebody in the room, it may not be a good choice for you.
Gotcha.
Anybody else?
On the far outside.
Okay.
But if you move into contact with the manufacturer to find out what type of seals they use at the various places on the motor.
So
The short answer to that is yes, it's helpful to check your owner's manual, but the problem is techs across the country will pick and choose what they want to use, and they don't always know what works chemically with your roof or not. So yes, knowing what and you have to know as a consumer what the manufacturer recommends. Oh, nice. You have new horizons. You have new horizons. Okay.
Listening to your slides and ourselves, if I'm looking at say like a trip bag or a skylight or whatever, would it be my
absolutely. Yes.
100%.
So I recommend if you don't have literature in your possession, reach out to the actual manufacturer to find out what your actual membrane is, what they recommend, and then if they have other products as far as sealants that are compatible to what's available near you. I would always have something on the side for emergency purposes, just in case. And remember, always look into what the shelf life is so you have it and it's usable.
So I have fiberglass roof. Can I get the Dicor sealant on it?
So if you have a fiberglass roof, Dicor will work with it. One of the big brands that's out there, which is Tiffin, 99% of their roof is silicone. They use Dicor around their plumbing caps. I went and talked to their techs, and I was like, why do they use the Dicor around the plumbing caps? They couldn't give me an answer because I think it's chemically compatible or something having to do with the plumbing, piping, things of that nature.
Okay, I'm going to do the last one here because I told you I'd come back.
Are you concerned about screws popping when you're walking up the roof?
Always. So when you're up there doing your visual inspection, you're also wanting to listen to where you're walking, where you're stepping. You want to try and, some roofs you will see the marks where the trusses are, some you won't. That being said, if you can see where the trusses are, it doesn't mean it's bad, it's just where the stretch and expansion is between the decking underneath. So do I keep an eye on where screws might pop up? If you have a fifth wheel or an RV of that style, they do have a tendency to put metal flanged or metal radiuses with galvanized metal, and they don't hold that with mechanical fasteners like a fancy word for screw. They use staples. When one staple doesn't work, they add 10. When 10 don't work, they add 100. So that's how those are put in. And the staples they use are not barbed. So that means they will back out eventually. So do check that when you're doing your inspection.
And we're kind of out of time, but just so you know, we are in booth A105, that's where you'll find Frank and our team over